Welcome back to my channel. My name is Charles. Today we will be discoursing upon literature. Grab a vodka tonic, down a Xanax, and enjoy the ride. This is Charles from the future. This is about to get real stupid. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Charles. If you're new here, where the hell have you been? If you're a returning viewer, I thought I saw you. Today we are solving an Agatha Christie murder. I've seen people do this video concept before. I've never watched the videos, but I see the thumbnails pop up when I'm browsing BookTube. And before making this channel, I was like, that would be so much fun. I want to try that out. And so it's been on the back burner for a long time, but I was laying in bed yesterday and listening to music. I was supposed to be finishing up some books for the video that comes out when this one probably will, but instead I just listened to music and vegetated a bit. I was like, I gotta put a video out this week. What's something I could probably do in a day? And I was like, oh yeah, Agatha Christie. And so here we are. I don't know who's the originator of this video concept, like solving an Agatha Christie murder, but I know that Emmy, if you don't know who that is, she's one of the BookTube titans. Emmy, if you're watching this, what's up? Like and subscribe. She's not watching this. I would tag her channel in the description box below, but I feel like there's some sort of rule that BookTube scum like myself shouldn't be associating with royalty like Emmy. Anyway, I've never watched one of these videos because I didn't want it to unduly influence my own take on the video. And also I didn't want it to spoil Agatha Christie books I hadn't read yet. But here we are. We're about to beat up an Agatha Christie murder mystery. You might be wondering, Charles, why are you wearing that stupid shirt? Good question, asshole. That's because the murder mystery we're doing today is a Caribbean mystery by Agatha Christie. I thought, why not be a little festive? So I'm wearing this silly shirt for you. You might be wondering, oh no, put this before. This is a Miss Marple mystery. Miss Marple is one of Agatha Christie's recurring protagonists. I haven't read that many Miss Marple mysteries. I love a good Hercule Poirot. It's the best it's gonna get from me. And I've read quite a few of those. So today we'll be doing a Miss Marple, a Caribbean mystery. Did I say I love Agatha Christie? That's why we're doing this video. I think that trying to solve a mystery would be really fun. And when I read the novels, I usually don't try and like sleuth about and figure out who the murderer is or what's happening. I kind of just read them for the atmosphere and when I'm feeling bored or stupid. Oh yeah, if you're a returning member, we have switched back to the old microphone. I couldn't do the new one because I'm not technologically there. I just wasn't built for fame, you know? I was built for shitty audio and sexy subscribers. Fans. You're my fans. You're my fans. We need to get into this because it's 11:46 in the morning. Obviously, it's nice and bright and sunny outside. It's 11:46 and I need to read the whole book, film the video, and edit it sometime. I don't know when this video will come out. I've kind of fallen a bit behind on the Sunday posts. What can you do? Oh, also scenery change. If you're wondering why I'm in a beige-walled mental asylum, I'm not. Bitch. The change of scenery is so that we can make like a like a little detective board. Here are my supplies. I have some big index cards. Probably not going to use these. I also have a spiral notebook for some paper. And then these little like sticky squares. I don't know what I'm going to use all this shit for. I also have a clipboard. Clipboards, if you guys aren't on your clipboard grind, get on that shit. Clipboards are awesome. They've changed my life. They've boosted my self-confidence. Yeah, clearly I don't have a plan going into this, solving this. Obviously, like, suspects, means, motive, opportunity. Do I think I'll be able to solve this mystery? Absolutely not. Getting to the end of this video, finishing the book and realizing that I had no clue what was going on the whole time will probably be a nice ego check. But we're gonna try anyway. I'm not half-assing it. I will be trying. Okay. Okay, so the plan is that I'm gonna read the book while you sit tight, and then I will check in every time I have something to say. And so we can try and solve this mystery together. I also have tape. I think I'm just stalling at this point. Okay, see you soon. See you soon. See you soon. We're back. I've finished all of 10 pages, which is 11 pages. 10 and a little blurb. It's just chapter 1. I'm a pretty slow reader, especially when I'm trying to digest and internalize all the information on the page. What time is it? It's 12:43. Like nearly an hour since our last check-in. Agatha Christie books in the beginning are typically a little slow because you're being introduced to all the characters. There's a good bit of exposition, but once they get going, they're like going. I've been taking some notes. Yeah, there are quite a few characters. Anyway, I got hungry after I finished 10 pages and I made lunch. Avocado toast. Here's how it looks. And two cheese sticks. I was just gonna have a power bar, but my avocado was going bad. I figured we would have lunch. I'm gonna have lunch and you're gonna watch me have lunch and chat about what's happening in the book. Cheers. I got this glass at Goodwill. Score. Since you asked, I'll tell you how I make avocado toast. Typically when I go grocery shopping for like groceries, I will buy one avocado and then whenever it's ripe, I just make avocado toast for like a meal or whatever. And it's really good. I love avocados. The recipe. You know the avocado is ripe when it's like mildly squishy. Or I heard there's this other hack where there's like a little stem. I think where the avocado is picked. What am I doing? But if you pick it out and it's like brown, it's ripe, but I don't know. I just kind of squeeze it. And then I scoop the halves out with a spoon and kind of rough dice them up. And then I mash them a little bit with a fork so that it's still rough. So it's still a bit chunky. And then I put Trader Joe's everything but the bagel seasoning, like an obscene amount of it because it has lots of seeds and it already has salt in the seasoning, so I don't put extra salt. And then I put ghost pepper flakes. I love spicy food. I get the ghost pepper flakes from Trader Joe's, but I think they're seasonal, like they don't have them right now. But one jar of it usually lasts me a minute. And if I don't have that, I just use red pepper flakes. And that's it. Typically I'll have my avocado toast with a few eggs, fried eggs, and it's really good. But I didn't feel like doing all that. We have a mystery to solve, so I just cut up my avocado. Anyway, cheers. I feel like a proper influencer telling you about my Trader Joe's habits and eating avocado toast. Let's talk about the book. It's set in the Caribbean, as the title hints at. I don't know where it says it sometime. Anyway, so it starts with Miss Marple talking to Major Palgrave, who's this old man who's just kind of ranting on about life stories like the elderly tend to do, as Agatha Christie says in the book. And Miss Marple is complaining about how nothing interesting is happening on the vacation, and she misses the like mysterious murder milieu of where she's from. And so she asks Major Palgrave if anything interesting happens, and he starts going into murders that have happened in the past. And first he talks about, oh, did I say this vlog will contain spoilers because like we're solving it? I thought that went without saying, but just in case, this is definitely spoiler laden. Anyway, so Major Palgrave is telling Miss Marple about deaths, murders, whatever, mysteries that have happened. And he mentions Harry Western, who I think shot Count de Ferrari, who is Harry Western's wife's lover. And that happened in the past. I don't know if that particular mystery is going to tie into the story later, but I'm letting you know just in case. The mystery that I do think will tie in later is the story Major Palgrave tells Miss Marple after that. And that's that Major Palgrave is at some, like... And Major Palgrave was recounting the story that a doctor had told him at a club sometime in the past. And we are never going to get through this video. There's no way in hell I'm finishing this book today. And the doctor tells this story of a guy whose wife tried to hang herself, and she was on the verge of death when the husband cut her down. Like, the husband... The husband rescues her and takes her to the doctor in the middle of the night, and then weeks later the woman overdoses and actually kills herself, the wife. And then that doctor was trading stories with another doctor who tells a story about a guy whose wife tried to drown herself, and then the guy brought her into the hospital, and weeks later she gassed herself, as Agatha Christie writes. The two men have different names. It's Robinson and Jones. We'll get to that in a minute. But one of the doctors is at the guy's house, the husband whose wife killed herself, and he sees this very rare hibiscus flower, and he takes a picture of it, and as he's taking the picture, the husband had walked into the frame, and he shows that picture to the other doctor, and the doctor's like, that's the same man. And I think this is where the mystery kind of begins. And then there are interesting tie-ins. Already 10 pages in. I said that one of the husband's names was Robinson, but what Agatha Christie says is that the guy can't actually remember the man's name. And he says, can't remember Robinson, I think. And previously in the chapter, there's a family called the Sandersons that's mentioned. And Robinson does sound like Sanderson. S comes after R, and then you have the Sons. I think they're the same number of syllables. Robinson, Sanderson. Yeah, both 3 syllables. So I think that the Robinson man might be Sanderson. And the Sandersons are the people who owned the hotel where Miss Marple is staying at in the tropics, but they no longer own it. The people who now own it are 2 characters in this novel, Molly Kendall and Tim Kendall. I know this is hard to keep track of. Hopefully it'll be easier now that you're acquainted with a good few of the characters. And also we'll have to start building the conspiracy wall, which we'll probably start doing after the next chapter. Also, remember how the husband whose wife killed herself, and who the doctor claims is the same man whose previous wife also killed herself, and it's the same, like, double attempt, husband tries to rescue, and then weeks later the wife kills herself and succeeds? And presumably the guy, like, saves his wife the first time to avoid suspicion. But the picture of the guy with the hibiscus plant, the man, Major Palgrave, has that picture, and he's getting it out to show Miss Marple when two couples start walking toward them, and Major Palgrave gets very uncomfortable. He starts blushing, he turns purple, he gets frantic, and quickly shoves the picture back in the bag and changes the subject. So presumably the man in the photo is one of the two men that are now approaching with their wives. Which we don't know yet, of course. But Major Palgrave calls the two couples the Great Quartet. He calls them flora and fauna because they are botanists and interested in birds. Remember the snapshot? The husband whose wife killed herself had a very rare hibiscus plant. Botanist. So I think that one of the men is the guy in the picture with the hibiscus plant. Also, the two couples, the first couple that approaches is Greg and Lucky Dyson. Greg is described as a big man with thick gray hair. Lucky is described as a golden blonde woman, and she likes to drink because she, like, yelled for a drink immediately. Molly Kendall, one of the owners of the hotel they're staying at, is also blonde. So maybe there will be some sort of identity switch up later. The other couple is Edward and Evelyn, who are known as the Colonel and Miss Hillington. Hillington being their last name. Edward is described as a dark, lean man, and Evelyn is handsome but rather weather beaten. Rather weather beaten. And that makes me suspect that Edward is up to no good. He's a dark, mysterious, lean man. And Evelyn is tired of his BS. That supposition is further backed up by something else that happens in the first chapter. So you have the two couples, Edward and Evelyn, and then you have Greg and Lucky. And when they're all talking together, Agatha Christie writes, "Damn it, she winced," she being Lucky. Remember that. "I'm all over thorns. Ouch. Edward deliberately rammed me into a thorn bush." And Edward is not Lucky's wife. Edward is the wife... Edward is not Lucky's husband. Edward is Evelyn's husband. So I think that that's some playful flirtation going on. The, like, Lucky calling him out and him having pushed her into a bush. So I think there might be an affair going on, but who's to say? Greg is described as big, boisterous, and happy-looking, which hints at him being a bit oblivious to what's going on, and that his wife, who is a golden blonde, may be not satisfied with him, may want to be cheating. Oh my god. I spilled water. That's it for this update. I'm gonna finish eating lunch and probably read the next couple chapters. Hopefully our check-ins in the future won't be this daunting. Also, I didn't even think of this, but feel free to read along and watch the video. Not that anyone has, like, Agatha Christie's A Caribbean Mystery just lying around waiting to, like, spend the entire day reading it and pause playing my little video, but that could be a fun way of experiencing the video, like solving the mystery with me in, like, real time, because it's recorded, so it's not real time. Anyway, that's all for this wrap up. I'll see you in a bit. It's me, like, 2 minutes later. Got some walnuts to snack on while I read the next chapter, and water. I don't know if I said this in the wrap-up, but Evelyn, the wife of Edward, I think I got caught up on spitting out the tongue twister that is handsome but rather weather-beaten, which is how Agatha Christie describes her. But I think that Evelyn, based on that description, might be knowledgeable of some of her husband's going-ons that aren't quite honorable, but she puts up with them and doesn't say anything, so Edward thinks he's getting away with all this stuff, but Evelyn actually knows better and she's just worn down by life. But very individual, you know. Maybe she'll want some revenge later on. Maybe she'll come to a breaking point. I don't know. I'm reading into, like, everything that happens too much, which I guess is, like, the point of trying to solve a murder mystery. A fictional one. Okay. Bye for real. Okay. It's like not even 2 minutes later. Once again, I started the next chapter. I'm on page 14. And they've begun describing the characters more, and some of the descriptions are recurring, which makes me think they might be a little more important. Anyway, I was like, why don't I start building the wall now? I think the way we're going to do it is we're going to put each character's name on a sticky note. I think a bug just hit my window. And then they'll get their own 5x8, I want to say. I don't know how big these are. Note cards. Well, they'll get their own note card, and we'll, like, stick the sticky note with their name above the card. I also got a coconut LaCroix. These are the best LaCroix, and also it's, like, tropical, because we're doing a Caribbean mystery and it's summer. Happy summer. Do you guys like the heat? I pretended for the longest time that I liked the cold. Not pretended, I, like, thought I did, but I've come to accept the fact that I really just want to boil alive in the heat. Okay, let's get to building it. I need to make sure it, like, fits in the frame. That looks kind of hot. Not that you can see it really. We'll zoom in on it when the time comes. Okay. Tim Kendall, first character. Second is Molly Kendall, his wife. Oh my god, I probably should have done this before I, like, ranted with you over my fucking avocado toast about the first chapter. That might have been a bit more helpful. Molly Kendall. I think those bitches are gonna fall off. Maybe I'll just write their names at the top of each note card, because there's no way they'll stay. No. Scott. I think we'll put up the, oh my god, the postman. I think we'll put up the two couples next. I have different colors. What color should we use? Oh, maybe female and male would have been smart. For, like, blue and green. Let's do that. A lot of Agatha Christie murder mysteries have a love element, so gender plays a fairly important role. Seeing that will be nice with the sticky note, so let's do that. We're taking down the original two. Okay. Here are Tim and Molly. I think we'll put the other two couples right below them, so you can see, like, the couples, you know. Okay, Greg and Lucky Dyson. I hope these show up in the frame. It shows in my little, like, camera picture thing that they're in frame, but I wouldn't be surprised if, being completely oblivious when it comes to tech and cameras and microphones, that they're, like, completely out of frame and you're just watching me like wave my hands around like an ape and not seeing anything. All this work is gonna be mildly depressing when we get to the end and I'll have like completely botched the mystery, but I do it for my fans. The next couple is Edward and Evelyn Hillington. Edward is referred to as Colonel. Evelyn Hillington, I don't know. Let's just keep putting up the notes. The notes. I'm already sweating. And it's not hot here. Ugh. I'm trying to put them kind of like high up so that I'm not, you know, crouching down and breaking my back to solve a fictional murder mystery. Okay, let's fill out some attributes of each of the characters. All three of these people are married, three of the couples. As you can probably tell by them having the same last name. We're gonna fly through filling these out a bit because I think I spent our lunch date kind of explaining how Agatha Christie describes them a bit. But you guys need to be trying to solve the murder mystery with me, which is why I'm giving you so much information so that presumably we're on like the same page. Okay. Okay, so we filled out all of the sparse attributes that these characters are described as by Agatha Christie. Let's run through them really quick. Tim Kendall is lean, dark, in his 30s, described as kind. He owns the Golden Palm Hotel with his wife, Molly Kendall, who is blonde, innocent, 20-odd years old, as Agatha Christie says. So we've got some sort of age gap situation going on. Maybe grounds for discontent. And she's described as being in good spirits. Greg Dyson, moving on to the next couple, is a big man. In Agatha Christie's words, is a big man. Thick gray hair. And that's all we have for Greg right now. For Lucky Dyson, his wife, she's a golden blonde woman. She likes to drink and love affair with Edward. Question mark is what I wrote on the note card. Edward Hillington, known as the Colonel. All I have is dark, lean man. I don't know if, Agatha Christie was getting tired of using new adjectives, but both Edward Hillington and Tim Kendall are described as lean, dark men. Maybe because they've been like tanning a lot on the island and eating fish, staying lean. Molly Kendall and Lucky Dyson are also both described as like attractive blonde women. They're both blonde. The last person we have is Evelyn Hillington, who we have described as handsome but rather weather-beaten. It seems like, to compare the girls for a minute, that Evelyn is the most like down-to-earth, wearied by life, per se. Molly, well, let's start with Lucky. Lucky is very like blonde bimbo presenting, but may actually be a lot smarter and crueler than she's letting on, but we don't know. Molly kind of seems to fall in between Evelyn and Lucky, in that she owns the hotel with her husband and they both run it together, so a bit more level-headed, but still like gorgeous, whatever. And her husband is also presumably not as old as Greg Dyson is. Yeah. We have used the blue and pink sticky notes so far. We have left. These are two different colors, but you like can't even tell. It's green and yellow. And then orange, so like two real colors left. I think yellow will be for very important information. You didn't hear, but these like cuts in editing are because I'm like burping my ass off. I shouldn't have had I should not have had the LaCroix because that's gonna make editing a harder job for me. Take pity on me. I'm a famous YouTuber. So yeah, we have yellow and orange tabs left. I think yellow I'm gonna reserve for like hot, spicy, juicy tidbits, and orange for just like other tidbits or connecting information. Like, for example, the two men we were talking about earlier from the stories. These men are in the past, the wife murderers, Jones and Robinson. I think that either Edward Hillington or Greg Dyson is the wife murderer. So if Lucky or Evelyn tries to kill themselves later on, we might know something's fishy. Also for tidbits like canon? Tidbits like when Major Palgrave refers to the four of these people as the great quartet, flora and fauna, and botanists who are interested in birds and yeah. I think I'll write the botanist thing on each of the four things. No, I will not. So that orange sticky note just says Palgrave refers to the four of them as flora and fauna and that they're botanists with bird interests. This one says wife killer ? And we're putting it next to Greg Dyson and Edward Hillington. Oh no, I used two sticky notes. We'll save that one for later. Which doesn't really add up based on my theory that the wife killer has the last name Sanderson because Robinson and Sanderson sound the same, but what can you do? Maybe I'll do a note card for like miscellaneous information. I don't know. Okay, I found tape, thank God. So I can tape these, like, the tiny squares are a bit falling off. This is just like normal tape. That's it for now. I think we'll do periodic check-ins where I'll be reading and updating these, and then when we get back together, we'll go over the changes to our conspiracy board. What are these called? Like when someone does this shit up on the wall? I don't know. I'll see you in a bit. We're back. It's been a minute. The time is 3:05. I'm on page 33, chapter 5. So progress is not progressing, but a good bit has happened since we've last chatted. We still have the original 6 people up here. I've added some tidbits, and I have 6 more note cards that I've just been like writing on while I've been reading. So let's put those up. Okay. I think these are all of the characters that we're going to be introduced to in the story. Let's do a rundown of what's happened thus far. We'll just go character by character, and I'll update you on what's new on the card. Tim Kendall. I put manipulative ? Same thing with Molly Kendall, because they had an aside in one of the chapters, and they were talking to each other about how they were very sweet to old people and they were really good at their jobs, and people bought that they were great at acting. That felt a bit icky to me, so I put manipulative, maybe. I mean, they're just doing their job. Like me being sexy and charming for YouTube when I'm actually a piece of shit in real life. Oh yeah, before we go back to it, the guy died. I think I showed you that if I end up putting the montages of me reading in the video. Major Palgrave is dead. I put an X through his name. I don't know if you can see it. I'll show you guys in depth, closer, sometime. But he's dead. R.I.P. And Molly breaks the news to Miss Marple that Major Palgrave is dead, and she acts really weird about it. She goes to Miss Marple and she's like, something's up, and then, well, she's not like, something's up. She's like, it's really sad, but he just died out of nowhere because he's old. First, Molly's like, oh, he's old, it's not unusual. And then she says, oh, he has high blood pressure. And then she says, maybe he forgot to take his pills. And then she says again, maybe he forgot to take his pills. And it's like, why are you doing too much? And that's all interspersed in one conversation with Miss Marple while she's like, well, maybe something is up or whatever. So that felt odd. But we have a bit of motive now for who could have killed or why Major Palgrave was killed. Remember we were talking earlier about how Major Palgrave was about to show Miss Marple a picture of the man. See this orange sticky note? The wife killer from the stories. And then the two couples approach, the quartet meaning Greg, the Dysons, and the Duns, which I had been misspelling. It's with Dawn, not Ton, like D-O-N. Anyway, the quartet approaches and Major Palgrave gets super flustered and throws the picture, crams it back into his wallet, and quickly changes the subject, which, like I said earlier, makes us think that either Greg or Edward is the man in the picture, or they know something, and Major Palgrave knows they know something, but the motive being that he had the picture and was going to expose the guy who had been killing his wife. I don't know. Also, Miss Prescott. No, we'll get to her in a minute. It's weird, though, because the motive is connected to the quartet, but Molly is the one who's deflecting reasons for how he could have just naturally passed away, which makes me think that this might be a sort of like everyone had a hand in the murder. Although another one of Agatha Christie's novels isn't everyone ended up doing it. I'm not going to tell you any more about that because it would spoil it, but I think she's repeated the same kind of murderer tropes before. But I don't think everyone did it. It's just weird that the motives are dispersed, or that one character is acting weird when the motive is tied to the other ones. Bringing in the new characters, and we'll get back to the like weird dispersed motive in a minute. Major Palgrave, he's dead. Dr. Graham is the resident doctor on the resort, whatever. He lives in the hotel and he's semi-retired. He's described as kind and about 65 years old. He thinks that Major Palgrave's death was nothing out of the ordinary. Then we have Canon Prescott, or I think Canon is like a title, like Colonel. I don't know. But because his name is like Jeremy. But Canon Prescott, he's usually referred to as the Canon. And his sister, Joan Prescott, are also on the trip. Joan is referred to as Miss Prescott. Jeremy is described as round Rubicon man, breathing, what did I write? Breathing geniality. Oh, like breathing geniality, like he is geniality personified. Those weren't my words. I try and keep the descriptions in quotes, just in case the specific wording will like trigger me to remember something or intuit something. And so that I'm not getting too far devolved from the text. So he's like round, ruddy, kind of like Irish, fat complexion, pale, I don't know. Well, I like do know that's what I'm imagining him as based on the description that says he is such. His sister is thin and severe looking. And I wrote, she's the sister. That's why they're next to each other. Oh, also, Joan Prescott has a little conversation with Miss Marple, confirming a lot of our suspicions earlier. Mainly being that Lucky Dyson and Edward Hillington have some sort of illicit affair, which is what we talked about earlier. Joan pretty much explicitly says it. I should write that down. Are you too far away? Should I move you guys? Let me move you guys a bit closer. I don't know. A little better? Okay, so Joan says that Edward and Lucky were having some weird relationship the year before. It seems that a lot of the people who are here on this trip were here last year and potentially going back a few years. Agatha Christie wrote that the quartet being... I'll start referring to them as just the quartet from now on, but I'm going to tell you their names one more time just in case. But it's the Dysons, Greg and Lucy, and the Hillingdons, Edward and Evelyn. They're known as the quartet. They're like the bird botanist scientists. But they apparently spend 3 months out of every year in the West Indies, and they were at the hotel place, whatever, last year. Molly and Kendall, I think, were also there last year because I don't know if they just bought the hotel or what, but presumably all 6 of these people were there last year. And then Dr. Graham was there last year, and I don't remember if Cannon and Joan were there. The Cannon and Joan. Mr. Raphael, we're gonna call him Mr. Raphael, goes to the West Indies every year, so it seems that maybe like nearly everyone except for Miss Marple goes to this hotel every year, which is a bit odd. I don't know where that takes us, but just keeping you guys updated. Can you see that? I made a note card for the wife murderer person, and it just says Jones, Robinson, the way that the wives died, and then that the pic is presumably of the same person, being Jones and Robinson, and also maybe Greg or Edward, those all being like one person. Oh, I also added this orange sticky note for the Sandersons, which were the people who owned the hotel before the Kendalls. I think that we'll get more information on the Sandersons as the novel progresses. I don't know how they'll tie in. Oh yeah, the last character who we haven't really talked about is Mr. Raphael. He's an extremely rich old man who's said to be in his 70s, 80s, or 90s, so he's like old. He's described as fantastically rich. He owned a supermarket chain in England, and he's semi-paralyzed. With him, I didn't make a separate note card. If a lot of information crops up, I'll make another note card. But he has a secretary, Esther Walters, who's a widow. She has corn-colored hair, so more blonde. Odd. A peasant face. And she behaves like a well-trained hospital nurse. Mr. Raphael also acts like he sounds like he would act. He's described as being very rude to everyone, including Esther Walters. And Christie writes that people often overlook that because of his like overwhelming, magnetic, hypnotic personality. Also with Mr. Raphael, I'm gonna call him Mr. R because I can't keep butchering that. Mr. R has Esther Walters, who's a widow, and I think old, I don't know. He also has a valet assistant slash nurse slash masseur, like massager. I don't think that him being a masseuse is like an important plot point, but they wrote it, but Agatha Christie wrote it when she was introducing the character, so I was like, we'll put it on his note card. But he's young, tall, good looking, and primarily like a valet assistant. That's where we are. Oh, the last chapter. In chapter 4, Miss Marple has begun investigating, and she goes, oh, we don't have a card for Miss Marple. I hope she doesn't end up being the murderer because she's not on our murder wall, but she has begun investigating like how the novels usually unfold, and she goes to Dr. Graham and she starts lying to him because she realizes that she let's try that again. She goes to Dr. Graham because he treated / saw Major Palgrave after he died, and she wants that picture of the wife murderer that she never got to solve because the quartet was approaching Major Palgrave when he was talking to Miss Marple. So she goes to Dr. Graham to try and find out how she can get that picture, and she lies about it and says that it was her picture and that her son was in the picture. And she describes the picture to Dr. Graham, and he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll definitely get it for you. It's gonna be weird if Greg or Edward is the one in the picture, because then Dr. Graham will get weirded out, why is Miss Marple lying? I don't know how that's gonna unfold, or if either of them is actually the one in the picture. But we have our wall, and it looks kind of sexy. I'm gonna keep reading. I don't know how I'm gonna finish this book and break it down before a reasonable hour. We're probably gonna take a coffee trip at some point, so I have fuel to sleuth out the rest of this novel. But that's it for now. I'm gonna keep reading, and we'll chat again soon. Okay, see you soon. There you are. I'm in bed, obviously. Can you see the pillows? I changed shirts. No big deal. I need to really make some progress on this so that I can hopefully finish tonight. I'm on page 53, and I figured we should chat about what's been happening. Okay, so the funeral service happened for, what's his name? Palgrave. No one knew him really well. They couldn't find the picture, so that means someone probably took it. The picture of the man with the hibiscus. The man being the wife murderer, and maybe Greg or Edward. I don't think the doctor is the murderer. There's this passage on page 34, and it says, speaking in the doctor's mindset, it says, Major Palgrave, he presumed, had probably come across the snapshot when taking something out of his wallet, and not even realizing how it had come there, had torn it up as something of no importance. The third-person omniscient point of view letting us know what the doctor's thinking makes me think that he's not the murderer, because presumably the murderer stole the picture and that was the motive to keep the picture from being spread. So I don't think the doctor did it. Oh, also, a lot of stuff has been happening with Palgrave having high blood pressure. At the point I'm at in the novel, I think nearly every character has said he had high blood pressure, but it's all just hearsay gossip. It's funny because the only person who didn't know he had high blood pressure is the doctor, which is odd. The doctor says, I certainly didn't expect it. He always seemed in very good form to me. And then, I don't think we talked about this in the last check-in, but a bottle of Serenite, which apparently is high blood pressure medication, I don't know, I've never heard of it, was found in Palgrave's room. And then Victoria Jones, a worker at the hotel, later comes forward and says that that bottle wasn't there before. So it sounds like someone planted it and spread the rumor that he had high blood pressure to make his sudden death seem very plausible. And then we kind of get into a bit more of the motive behind why someone killed Palgrave. That being that the book starts out with him telling Miss Marple a story about the murderer, and presumably he had other photographs in his wallet, one of a dead tiger and him with a polo pony. And presumably he would use the photographs to tell stories. So it sounds like he told the story of the murderer to the wrong person. And then Agatha Christie casts a bit of suspicion on Mr. R's valet attendant, whose name is Arthur Jackson. And she kind of speculates on maybe it was him. Maybe Palgrave saw the attendant while looking at the photograph and realized it was the same person. I think that's a red herring, but I don't know. Another reason why I don't think Dr. Graham did it is because there's a passage about him where it says he was uneasy and couldn't fall asleep because he was beginning to be swayed by Miss Marple's belief that something fishy might be going on. And then there's another character who we haven't talked about who's introduced, and her name is Senora de Caspiro. She's a handsome woman from Venezuela, and she's just tanning on the beach, putting oil on her legs. She's a hot broad. Here's a passage describing Miss Marple that I just thought was funny. Hence the, like, stupid-ass giggles. Evelyn Hillingdon looked at her indulgently and thought she was a nice old pussy. Okay. We haven't gotten to the juicy bits of the recap yet. I think we're pretty much there. So Evelyn has been on the island that they're staying on, she says, once or twice before, presumably her husband with her. And she says that they travel with the other couple. So I think the quartet kind of moves as one. So presumably those four have been on that exact island before. I don't know what that means. Actually, I'm developing a theory on why it matters that they've all been there before, and we're about to get to that, I think. I'm just trying to recap all the info so we're on the same page. Evelyn says that the quartet has traveled together for some years now. Evelyn and her husband, Edward, have been married for 8 or 9 years now, so they might be a bit tired of each other. And then we get to this bit where Mr. R is being bitchy. He says, ghastly old bore, talking about Major Palgrave, the dead guy. He says, silly fool too. He needn't have died if he looked after himself properly. And then Miss Walters, his assistant, says that Major Palgrave had high blood pressure. And then Evelyn Hillingdon says that Major Palgrave had high blood pressure. And then Mr. R comes in with a plot twist and says he didn't have high blood pressure because he told me so. Spooky. Where I am now is that one of the suspects must have high blood pressure. Not must, but maybe one of the suspects has high blood pressure and the medication was stolen from them, or they themselves are the murderer and they planted the medication. So the hotel worker who realizes that the high blood pressure pills weren't in the guy's cabinet before he died goes and tells the hotel owner, Molly, the wife, and she is pretty dismissive of it. She says she doesn't want to make a big deal, but then her husband walks in and she feels obligated to tell him, so she does. And the husband and wife have a conversation. Whew. I don't think that both Molly and Tim would be the culprits because of the conversation they're having. I think one of them is BSing. If they're both in on it, they wouldn't be having that conversation where they're going back and forth and talking about what to do about knowing the information. But I think one of them could be BSing and like know more than they're letting on, or be like straight up lying because they killed the person. I think the key to this book's like mystery, you know, like who did it, is going to be some sort of cross. It's going to be a couple who did it, but not one that's initially paired. It'll be like a guy and a girl who shouldn't be having relations, but are. That's my theory. Or that's what yeah, it's my theory. I don't know which two yet. I think it's a guy and a girl, and I think that they work together, but I don't know. During the conversation between Tim and his wife Molly, they're the owners of the hotel, Molly refers to the high blood pressure medication by its medical name, and presumably if you're a young 22-year-old girl like she's described as being earlier on in the novel, you wouldn't be very familiar with elderly medications. Before this novel, I didn't know what Serenite was. I don't know if that's a real medication, probably, but it's weird that she hears the name Serenite once and then remembers it. It's also weird that her husband responds by saying he had to take those pills all the time to keep his blood pressure down. Like, this is a young couple. How are they so well versed in medications for old people? And then later on in the page, Tim, the husband, says, what's the name of this stuff? Sarah something bottle? So he doesn't remember it after like a minute later. And it's like, something isn't adding up. Someone knows too much or too little. You know? Like, is he playing dumb? Or does Molly know too much? And at this point, I wrote in the margins, I said, OMG, Molly and Greg? This being like 10 minutes ago. I don't know why I wrote that. I know this is like so frazzled, so all over the place, but if Edward and Evelyn have been married for 8 or 9 years, Edward probably isn't the man who's been killing his wives unless he led a double life
and like had broads on the side and posed as the husband. I think that's unlikely. So that leaves Greg in the spotlight. And the woman on the beach, Senora de Caspero, says that Greg has been all over the place and that he sees other women. Maybe the other woman is Molly, because if Greg was in the photograph, I can hear like a phone ringing, but like no one's in my place right now, which is a bit weird. And I keep losing my damn train of thought. Right, so sorry, what I was saying was, if Greg is the man in the picture and he's said to be cheating on his wife, like his wife is presumably cheating on him, and we don't know how long Greg and Lucky have been married, but maybe Greg and Molly have a thing, and Molly is covering up and acting weird because she doesn't want Greg to be turned in, so she and Greg killed him. Or maybe if we go back to the theory on blood pressure medication, maybe Mr. R and Molly are having a little tryst. I don't know. I think someone's being a little hoary and sleeping around where they shouldn't be, so that's my theory, and that's where we are. Okay, we'll talk later. Okay, I read like 2 lines later, it's like 30 seconds later, and now Molly says, I think what she said was that there was a bottle there labeled 7 sarin? Saronite, said the doctor. Babe, you just said the word. What's going on? I think Molly's a dirty girl. I feel it. Molly's being weird. This is me executing Tim from the suspicion list. I don't think Tim did it. Because Molly, you freak. I think you're up to no good. See you soon.
It's me again. I'm on chapter 9 and I feel completely disoriented. Agatha Christie does a great job of just like throwing information at you and throwing suspicion on everyone. So at this point, I've like no clue. I had a couple theories and I was like, I dig those, but so much shit has gone down that I'm like tail spinning out of control, and I really have no clue where this book is going. Someone else will probably die and that'll help narrow it down, but I'm only on page 64 of like 210, so I'm gonna update the murder wall and hopefully that will bring some clarity. I will see you in a while. Okay. Okay. Shit has been going down. I've updated the murder board. Let's chat about it. Starting with Mr. R's valet attendant / masseuse, Jackson. He has been employed with Mr. R for only 9 months. So that means he could be the wife murderer. And he is now employed by Mr. R. We don't know. He's not married, Jackson isn't, and he is said to be flirting with women. Okay, here's the juicy bit. Greg Dyson, who is married to Lucky Dyson, was married before. And his wife, his first wife, died. Wife murderer? And his first wife was related to Lucky Dyson. So Lucky married her dead relative's husband, which is really fucked. So like revenge? I don't know. Freaky. And the circumstances of Greg's first wife's death are described as some sort of scandal. Also, pretty important information. I don't know where it'll factor in, but Tim and Molly Kendall only took over from the Sandersons 6 months ago, from like the time that these events are happening, which is not very long. And then we get a bit more on Molly's character profile in a conversation with Mr. R's secretary, Esther Walters. Miss Marple finds out from Esther, that Molly worries a ton, even more than her husband, and has, quote, odd fits of depression, which is odd. And then the closing end of chapter 8 is what like really threw me into a tailspin, because Esther and Miss Marple are talking, and Esther says that the story of the deaths, that it was really the wife who gassed him, like the man. I mean, she'd given him a sedative of some kind and then stuck his head in the gas oven. Was that it? Is what Esther says. And then Miss Marple says, I don't think that was exactly it. So I've no clue. We've just been bombarded with tons and tons of information, and a lot of it is really freaky. We're on chapter 9, page 65. One last bit of information. Esther says that the Hillingdons have been going to the island for the past 3 or 4 years, and that Gregory, has been here, quote, much longer than that. He knows the West Indies very well. He came here originally, I believe, with his first wife, which is freaky that he still comes back with the wife's relative. Something fishy is going on with Greg and Lucky. And with Molly. I don't know. What if, crazy throw out there, what if Greg is the wife murderer whose old name was Sanderson and it gets mistaken as Robinson, and he owned the hotel and that's why he'd been going there for so long, and then it passes to Tim and Molly? Probably not. Definitely not. I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading. And flash cut to our next chat. It's midnight. Needless to say, things have devolved. I'm done with the book. I thought we would do a few check-ins before I finished, and I could, like, give you my thoughts, but... I don't know what to say. It was pretty stupid, honestly. I guess if you made it this far, you're not planning to read the book, so we can do a little breakdown. Also, I said there would be spoilers. The murderer was Tim Kendall. He... In the end, he accidentally kills Lucky, thinking that Lucky is Molly. They both have blonde hair, remember? And the, like, key to the murder, Miss Marple figuring it out, is that Major Palgrave had a glass eye that was looking like chameleon-ass-eyed, and you were supposed to know that one of the eyes was like looking at Tim Kendall and he was the man in the photograph. I didn't like it. I thought it was stupid. We're not gonna turn this video into a rant on Agatha Christie because I think she's a babe. I think she's awesome. But I don't think the mysteries are meant to be overanalyzed. They're not meant to be read all in a day. You don't look into them too much. You just you pick one up for a silly, stupid time, and you have a good time. You don't complain. You don't put fucking note cards up on your wall. You just sit back, read a few pages every day or two. The motive for the murder is that Tim was having an affair with Mr. R's secretary. And oh my god, am I recording? So Tim was having an affair with Mr. R's secretary. Mr. R's secretary was set to inherit £50,000 from Mr. R in the will because Mr. R's filthy rich. And Jackson, his valet, had told Tim that because they were friends apparently. It all kind of Shazam together at the last moment. I don't like it because it wasn't artfully there. I think the best mysteries are truly figure-outable. And then Molly's fits of depression and mania were just Tim gaslighting her. I think looking into the novel and generalizing to be Agatha Christie novels in general, looking into them and breaking them down isn't fun. That's not what an Agatha Christie novel is meant for. Because Edward had an affair with Lucky. Evelyn was a mysterious bitch the entire time. In a good way, an awesome way. And then Greg was flirting with everyone. And then Greg's first wife, who was supposedly murdered, she mysteriously died. And the first wife was cousins with Lucky. That's just too many coincidences, red herrings going on for a satisfyingly crunchy wrap up. And then the Sandersons came into play absolutely nothing. The 6 months before Tim and Molly not inherited, just got it, bought it. And then there was a lot of timeline stuff that turns out to be completely fucking irrelevant. And you're the wife murderer thing, it was Tim all along, but we never learned anything about the two previous wives or why he fucking gassed them. And what did he do? Oh, OD'd. And then you have the Prescotts, Cannon and Joan, who are these just dumb sibling duo pair. And the Cannon, who apparently is a religious title, just sits on the beach. And there's one line in the book and he's he loved little girls. And I was sorry, what? And then Joan is just a gossip the entire time. Dr. Graham is a complete ape of a human. He doesn't do anything. All of the saucy bits were in the three couples. And of course the resolution was something completely dumb as shit. I thought that there would have been some interesting play in the timeline of like when the couples got together and how long they'd been on the island and like how they'd met up and stuff like that. But there was like none of that. This novel was also written in 1964. 1964. So she was like probably a senile babe by that time. I thought she didn't make it past the 30s, but good for her, I guess. At least I made like a hot board, and I'm gonna be peeling my paint off when I rip these bitches down. Ugh. Oh my god. There was a second death too. I mentioned her earlier, but one of the like workers at the Hotel Victoria is stabbed, and apparently the stabbing is done by Tim, but we never find out. Molly also has these like weird blackouts where she doesn't remember anything, and that doesn't really come into play at all apart from Tim gaslighting her into thinking she's like nuts. There's also a point where Molly is pretending to be asleep and Miss Marple like pretends to leave and then does a quick like, I'll be leaving. And she catches Molly staring that bitch down, and I was like, ooh, that's pretty creepy. And of course that went nowhere. I just think there was so much more to be done. I thought that the like, oh my god, I was like right on a few-ish points. I said that a couple would have, like, some sort of interplay would have been the ending, and it ended up being Tim and Esther, which I have, like, absolutely no pleasure in guessing right, because it was, like, such a broad generalization, and it was, like, wrong, kind of, too, because it was just Tim who happened to be having an affair with Esther, but Esther didn't know that Tim was planning on killing Molly, I think. What else did I guess? Oh, I think at one point I was like, what if Molly... I had some bomb-ass theories. Don't front. Don't front. I was like, what if Molly and Greg were hooking up? Because Lucky and Edward were hooking up. Evelyn was this, like, wise old prude. And Tim... I don't know. He had his boo thing. I don't know. The Prescotts were, like, completely irrelevant. You can tell by the, like, one line that I have written for each of them. Oh, yeah, the other thing. Molly apparently had a boyfriend before Tim Kendall, and her family hated the boyfriend because he was, like, low class or, like, weird or whatever. And so Molly finds this new man, Tim Kendall, who's very upstanding, and the family's grateful and very supportive. And it turns out that the new man is just Tim Kendall with a new name, which is so pathetic. Like, I was like, maybe there's some sort of name switching. I can't remember what I wrote on the note cards and what we talked about. I think we did talk about it when I was like railing off as many theories as possible so that we could get to the end of the video and I'd be like, I told you so. But it didn't work because I was completely off on all of them, and Agatha Christie pulled a completely dipshitty wrap up on us. But one of the theories was that the Sandersons were the Robinsons of the wife murderer name, because the person was like, it sounded like Robinson, but I can't remember the name, and I was like, same 3 syllables, same ends in son. So I was like, what if the Sandersons were the wife murderer, like the husband, and Greg, who'd been going to the island for years before the rest of them, including Tim and Molly, I was like, what if he reinvents himself and his third wife is Lucky? Like, that would have been much cooler, playing with the timeline and with the, like, what is it called when 2 words sound homophone? Anyway, This was pretty cool. I put in a little tab so I would know where we had stopped chatting. And you can see our last chat was like, well, our last chat was on page like 64. And the book ends on page 210. 214 if you're counting the monologue, the epilogue. Yeah. This is all to say, editing this video is going to be a bitch because I know I've been so redundant throughout it. I've been like, here's my theory, and then I'll say something else, and then regurgitate the theory, and then say like the same 3 opinions on repeat, which is like, I'm not mad, but you just shouldn't overanalyze an Agatha Christie novel. She was a senile babe in 1964. There's no way. A few of the mysteries that I've read recently are kind of like, I think I've started to expect too much. I don't know. Oh, there are some very banger one-lines though. Like, Agatha Christie is a good writer. There were some lines about humanity that I was like, damn right. But it feels silly to quote Agatha Christie for like deep human insights. Here's a good one. When you think of people, it is in the image you have made of them for yourself. True. I mean, it's nothing revolutionary, but it's like these nice pat little phrases. There was another one that I liked. Oh, this one's like mildly interesting. It is never easy to repeat a conversation and be entirely accurate in what the other party to... What? Here's another one. It is never easy to repeat a conversation and be entirely accurate in what the other party to it has said. One is always inclined to jump at what you think they meant. They meant. One is always inclined to jump at what you think they meant. Then, afterwards, you put actual words into their mouths. True. That just about does it. That does it. Also, there were so many, like, stupid ass... I said this, but there were so many red herrings. I'm not gonna do a deep dive into why this novel's stupid and could have been written much more cleverly, and could have been written much better. The quartet, these two couples, the Dysons and Hillingdons, are introduced as botanists, and in the snapshot of the murderer, there's a very rare hibiscus flower, so you're like, oh, it must be one of the botanists, because botanists would be introduced, interested in rare flowers, but no, it's just Tim Kendall, who happens to have a rare hibiscus plant or something. The red herrings are really annoying. I get kind of the point, but I don't think that's a good faith red herring. I think the best mysteries, like, the evidence is there, and if you figure it out, good on you, but it shouldn't detract from the craft. I don't really know what I'm saying. But the best mysteries are very logical, and the, like, bad faith red herrings and random plot twists and, like, Shazam-y endings are very... They're just not... They're not a good mystery make. I'm gonna go to bed now. I woke up... Well, I didn't even wake up early. I just stayed up really late last night reading / listening to music. I think I said that. In the beginning of this video, I was supposed to be finishing up the books for the video that would have come out when this one is coming out, but I was like, I'd rather just not. And so I didn't do that. I've been busy beating up the town, so I didn't have time to finish, and I'm enjoying the books for that video, so I didn't want to rush through them. I didn't want to rush through them because they're fun. And so I'm pushing that video off, and I was like, I'll just do this one. But I ended up drinking too much caffeine and then not sleeping like at all last night. Well, I did sleep some, but y'all see my bags? You guys. So I need to rest up. My eyes have been watering the entire day. I've been blinking like a complete ape. Probably gonna take a shower, stand comatose like a corpse, and then lay in bed and edit this video tomorrow. I hope you had fun. I mean, I had a blast thinking that I would ever be able to disentangle the apery that is an Agatha Christie book. Yeah, good seeing you here. You look hot. Rest up. I'll see you soon. Bye. Okay, we're back to the old microphone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope it sounds good. Does it? Ski! Okay. Okay.